What's happening, everyone? My name is Pardon My Presence, and you are listening to the Pardon My Presence YouTube channel, a channel where I address common issues from a unique point of view. It's also a place where I pardon a space for critical thought and analysis in today's society, where well-informed, logical assessments are slowly becoming taboo. What's going on? What's happening? Part of my presence YouTube channel. I want to discuss this really quickly. I'm reading an article in regards to Lil Wayne and him taking a plea deal in regards to his recent arrest. Apparently, the police decided to, or the FBI decided to hop on board his jet, and they found a gun on him. And this was back maybe earlier in the year, to everyone's surprise, because Lil Wayne did time in New York for being caught with a gun there, and did about, was it 2-3, I think it was 3 or 5 years. No, he did a 3-year term, if I'm not mistaken. Now, this is the interesting part. People were speculating that when Lil Wayne decided to endorse Donald Trump, that he did it in hopes that he would receive a pardon, because it doesn't look like he's going to be escaping this particular gun possession charge based on the raid on his private jet. So then, lo and behold, this just broke where they're saying that Lil Wayne has taken a plea deal. Now here's the bizarre part about this. He took a plea deal where he pleads guilty to being a felon in possession of a firearm and ammunition. Now that in itself is an automatic jail time, right? Automatic sentencing, automatic eviction for jail time. And I'm reading this article, and what it's saying is that as a result of you pleading guilty, you understand that your plea does not allow you to take it back. Again, this is before they even sentenced him, right? So they're saying that by you pleading guilty, you're pretty much left in limbo, and you're left to the court's discretion as to what type of sentence they're going to give you. And the maximum sentence is 10 years for this particular plea deal. I don't see Lil Wayne pleading to take 10 years. To me, it doesn't make any sense. But what it says here is that due to Lil Wayne's health, he suffers from epilepsy, and being that Corona puts him at a greater risk than other people, I guess he's shooting for not getting any jail time at all. I don't see that. I see him getting jail time. I see him getting maybe about 3 to 5 years, maybe even more if they decide to make an example out of him, which is what they seem to be doing with a lot of black males. So I don't see them going easy on Lil Wayne, especially if it's his second time getting caught with a firearm. But here is the interesting thing about this particular article that I want to read. Okay, now Lil Wayne brokered this deal with his attorney, whose name is Howard Serbnick, right? Serbnick. Okay, so what it says here is that Lil Wayne's attorney, Howard Serbnick, said in court that before Lil Wayne decided to plead guilty, the defense was planning on filing a motion to argue with the authorities had violated Lil Wayne's Fourth Amendment rights when they searched him and found the pistol. So that was their strategy. They're going to argue that his human rights were violated. Okay, but then after he decides to take the plea, this is what the lawyer says. I must say, I thought it was a very viable motion, Serbnick said, adding that he was impressed by Lil Wayne's decision to take responsibility early in the case. So what he's referring to is the fact that Lil Wayne decided to take the plea deal early and decided not to fight the case at all. This is your lawyer, the lawyer that you paid to get you out of jail, right? Or to keep you out of jail, to keep you from having the record, to keep you from being taken away from your family, to keep you from not being able to provide any income for your family. And the lawyer is saying, I'm impressed of the fact that he decided to take responsibility and take a plea deal? Now, I'm not sure if you realize the trend that has been happening for, I would say, more than 10 years now, where rappers keep getting into legal issues, where they're being arrested, they're being, dealing with jail time, and it never goes to court. What happens is that they always take a plea, and the plea deal leads to situations like what Meek Mill dealt with, as far as taking a plea deal and he ends up on 10 years probation, where he can't even sneeze, and if he does sneeze, he's back in jail, as we saw Meek Mill go back to jail a couple of times on that 10-year probation. And this is how they get people. They convince you to plea, take a plea deal, thinking that's the easy way out. Meanwhile, you're just going to get recalled back to jail in those 10 years if you violate your probation. And the probation is set up where it's confusing, it's not easy to understand, and these rappers don't have the sense to say, hey, I need to pay someone. If I'm going to pay someone and have all these people in my entourage, let me pay someone to keep track of the probation guidelines and to make sure that I don't violate them so I remain free. But what's been happening is that rappers are no longer going to trial. All of them seem to be pleading guilty to lesser charges to avoid jail time. And they always brag about having a Jewish lawyer. They brag about having the top-notch lawyer. But yet all these top-notch lawyers that you're paying for top money, right? Top-notch charges, top-notch legal fees. None of them wanted to take it to trial and put their reputation on the line. None of them wanted to put your freedom on the line. Yet, they made sure they got their money with these legal fees. And I could go down a list of rappers. When you look at all of the arrests that have occurred, the hip-hop police being in everyone's business and in the industry, the arrests, the charges, the legal defense, the bragging on the top-notch Jewish lawyer that they paid a high price for, high legal fees for, but yet there's never any trial. It's always a plea deal, and they always plead to a lesser charge, and they end up in situations where they're on probation for 10 years, and when you're on probation for 10 years, you can't sneeze. If you're to sneeze, you're going to end up right back in jail. That's what we saw happen to Meek Mill, and that's what we have seen situations where rappers are on probation for an extended period of time, and they can always be called back for a violation. So you have these rappers paying these high, enormous fees, legal fees, and yet these lawyers never put in the work to fight for their innocence if they are innocent, or fight to make sure that they get the best legal representation ever. And apparently, according to these lawyers, the best legal representation is to plead guilty, to make sure that these black men have records, to ensure that these black men cannot vote or carry a firearm legally, especially in that profession where you know it may be necessary or to their best interest to carry a firearm. Look how you've handicapped these people. And this brings me back to the 90s, right? Because remember, rap's been going on since the 70s, but this brings me back to the 90s when you had similar situations where rappers like Snoop Dogg was on trial, Tupac on trial. In particular with Snoop Dogg, he was on trial for murder. If he was found to be guilty and convicted, he would be in jail till this day, doing life. But he decided to take it to trial. O.J. Simpson, he was offered a plea deal. He decided not to take it. He was going to take it to trial. And both of those guys had one thing in common. They had the same lawyer willing to fight for them. And that lawyer's name was Johnny Cochran. Johnny Cochran put his balls on the line and took it to trial. both of those cases. No, we're not taking plea deals. You're innocent. Why take a plea deal and have you end up doing time, even though it's a lesser time? You're still going to be in jail regardless, without the possibility of, filing an appeal, without the possibility of clearing your name. Why would you do that? Just because you're afraid of what the consequences may be if you went to trial. If you're innocent, let the prosecutors plead their case, let them make their case, and let us poke holes in your case. That's why you're paying us. So he took those cases to trial. And Snoop Dogg is who he is today because Johnny Cochran decided to take it to trial and fight for him. And Snoop was found not guilty. Same thing with O.J. Simpson. The other lawyers wanted him to take a plea. Cochran said, no, we're going to take it to trial. And we all saw what happened in that trial, that fiasco of a trial. But we all saw how Johnny Cochran fought tooth and nail and was able to get O.J. Simpson the verdict that was beneficial to him, which was not guilty. And it seems like this is what's lacking with these rappers, because when Johnny Cochran died, that was a sad day. It really was, because that was the day that the tables turned for black men who have the ability to pay for top-notch legal defenses. Because no longer was there a black attorney that had their best interest in mind. No longer was there a black attorney that will fight for them and put the reputation on the line to make sure that they had the best representation possible. What has happened now is that these rappers are paying Jewish lawyers, and they're paying even more money probably, and all that they're getting is legal representation to plead guilty to a lesser offense, which only helps out the prosecution because it makes everybody's job easier. And if you are someone who is being potentially put in jail or someone who's on trial, why would you want the prosecutor to have an easy time? Why would you want the prosecutor to be able to get away with the minimum to get a conviction? Why would you want it to make the life easy for the judge, for the jurors, for the city? If my life is on the line, I want to make sure I raise hell for everybody involved. I want to make sure that if you convict me, it's because you worked damn hard to get a conviction. Because if I'm innocent and I know I'm innocent, I'm going to court, I'm going to trial, and I'm going to put my balls on the line to make sure that I fight for my freedom. And that should be what these rappers should be doing. Unfortunately, that's not the case. They're pleading guilty. They're taking legal advice from people who probably don't want to fight for them, don't believe in their innocence, and as a result, if they have no conviction in what the rapper is saying to defend him, they're going to advise him to take a plea and make sure everybody gets paid and no one has sleepless nights prepping for trial. So this is what I see happening. This seems to be the trend. I don't know what's going to come of this plea deal with Lil Wayne. I don't know if he's going to end up doing 5-7 years in prison, but he was already out of the game for almost 5 years due to that legal battle with Cash Money Universal Records. So I see this as a loss for Lil Wayne. This might be the end of his career if his career wasn't ended already. So I feel kind of bad for him, but Lil Wayne's been making weird choices, weird decisions lately, and I feel this is gonna come back to haunt him, and that's just how I see it. So that's just the first part of what's wrong with Lil Wayne. I'm going to do a second part that's gonna go in depth with the deal he made with Universal Records, but I'll save that for the next video. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know how you feel about this whole situation with Lil Wayne pleading guilty. Does it make sense? Is it the wrong move to make? Is there an issue with black men, especially black rappers, who are not being represented properly, especially with all of the money and access to resources that they have? They don't seem to be getting good deals with all of these cases that they keep pleading guilty to. But you let me know how you feel with this. Until next time, pardon my presence.